Nick.
Welcome to That Superhero Thing podcast, where we discuss the latest superhero and comic book movies and TV shows. I'm your host, Nick, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Anthony.
Hello.
You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. How are you?
Good. I'm good. It's weird, though, because we're recording this on a weekday, and
Yeah.
I'm used to recording this on a Saturday morning, and I'm recording it after work on a Wednesday. I keep saying Wednesday. It's Thursday. It's a Thursday. Nick, it's a Thursday. We're recording it on a Thursday, and we're going to put it out on a Friday. And we're going to put it out on a Friday because Marvel and Disney keep moving the times for all the Loki stuff. So I know we said last week that we were going to do the Loki Countdown carrying on a Sunday, and then the Takeover was going to start on a Friday. But they have Disney have decided to do a Loki Countdown on Disney Plus. So we thought we'd keep up with it, and we'll start doing it on a Friday as well.
And if
So,
Disney
there
wants
you
to
go.
contact us to pay us for the helpful marketing technique, then we're open and we can pass you our bank details. No problem.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's good. We started talking about bank details. Completely hadn't written this down. We sold a T-shirt on the merch store this
We
week. Didn't we,
did.
Anthony?
Our first bit of merch.
Somebody bought a T-shirt.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. If you want to buy merch, if anybody else does, please buy something so that we can keep doing more podcasts. The website is on the merch store's on the website. On this week's show, though, we are going to be doing the Loki Takeover. It's the start of it, and we're going to start it with the Loki Countdown. So we will be breaking down the first Thor movie. Obviously, we'll review the whole movie, but we're going to be mainly focused on Loki because obviously it's the Loki Countdown. Before we get into that, though, we'll be going through the news. So we've got Flash news, Suicide Squad news, Star Wars news, He-Man news. We don't talk about He-Man very often. And then we've got a load more Marvel news. We've got Guardians, Black Widow, Ghost Rider news. I like to think that they must have listened to our podcast last week, and that's why I'm talking about Ghost Rider. And then we're going to be breaking down the trailer for Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. So we'll go through that as well. There will be spoilers all the way through, clearly, for the Thor movie. There could potentially be spoilers and speculation when we go through the news. As I always say, we're never right, but it's got to happen one week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We will put timestamps in the description. So if you want to skip through the news to the Venom trailer or skip right through to the Loki review, you can do. And then just to let you know, next week we will be continuing the Loki Countdown. So we're going to do 2 movies next week. We're gonna cram in 2 movies to the podcast. We're going to be going through the Avengers movie, or Avengers Assemble, as it's called in the UK.
Yeah.
And then my favourite MCU film ever, Thor: The Dark World. We'll be breaking that one down as well. If you are enjoying the podcast, please do leave us a review, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Even would be massively helpful. It really helps us get noticed, doesn't it, Anthony?
Yeah. No, it really does.
It does indeed.
Thank you before you even start. But yeah, thank you to everyone that has so far. It makes a huge difference. It really does.
Oh, massive. It does, yeah. It really helps. Let's get into the news then. So we'll start with DC news as we usually do. So Jeffrey Dean Morgan has been in the news this week about Batman. He did an interview with Cinepop, and he said that he'd love to play the Thomas Wayne version of Batman in a Flashpoint movie, but he thinks he's only got 2 or 3 year window left before he's too old. That's a bit depressing, isn't it? Jeffrey Dean Morgan's gonna be too old to play Batman.
Oh my God, I know. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan as well.
He's brilliant, isn't he? As Negan in Walking Dead. Everything he's in, to be fair, he's really good. I would love to see him as suit up as a Thomas Wayne version of Batman, but I just think with them going down the Michael Keaton route, that's it. That's to replace it, isn't it? They're taking the same story as Flashpoint, I think, and they're going with Michael Keaton. Which, don't get me wrong, it's going to be really interesting to see Michael Keaton come back, but it's a shame because that means we're although I don't know, they're getting into multiverse now, aren't they, with DC? So I suppose never say never. And they've got so many different timelines running in different universes that you could end up with 3 different Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Thomas Wayne Batmans, to be fair. All different ones with the way that they're running with it.
You just never know.
You never know. Some more Flash news is that they have been filming in Burley House, I think it's called, in Peterborough. And that is where they filmed the 1989 Batman. And the Burley House was the Wayne Manor. So they are back there filming. I know we'd had confirmation already from Michael Keaton's talent agency that he was going to be returning for it, but I still find it weird that it's not been officially announced this yet, has it?
No, I don't think so.
It's why they keep. Why
it's
would
all
you keep
still
it
rumor
quiet?
and speculation, even though we know it's happening.
I know. I don't get it. But surely the fact that they're filming there, that's confirmation that Michael Keaton's going to be there. it's really tight security, so no one really knows what's going on. There's just like random. I don't even think it's paparazzi. I think it's just random people in Peterborough taking photos on their mobile phones. So they've seen scenes being filmed where there's like loads of smoke and fire going on. And then there were rumours, found this quite funny, that a figure had been seen walking around in a long black cape, but no one had managed to get a photo of him yet. And it's not that stupid, is it? Because it's a Batman film, so you'd assume it's going to be Batman.
Yeah.
Somebody got a photo of him, and it's just one of the staff with a big black beard and a big black trench coat. So I think people were a little bit...
It's just Jeff from sound.
It's just Jeff from the sound department walking around thinking, why is everybody taking photos of me? I shouldn't have worn this trench coat. It's just bad movies all over the press, and now people think he's Batman. Maybe he is Batman and he's completely blown his cover.
Maybe.
We've got a little bit of Suicide Squad news. So we know the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, is releasing on the 6th of August in cinemas, and I know I'm buzzing for this. So cinemas and on HBO Max. In the UK, sorry for everybody who's listening in the US, we're actually getting it a week earlier. It's been confirmed.
Yes.
So we're actually going to get it on the 30th of July. So what we're going to have to do is when we listen to it to review, we're going to have to we're going to have to sort of hold it in for a week, aren't we? So that we can wait for everybody to go and see it.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we could release it that little bit sooner, but obviously just put out spoilers and say don't listen to it if you haven't seen it.
A non-spoiler review and then a spoiler review. We'll think about it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Leave us to ponder.
Leave us to decide. It's a Thursday. I was going to say it's a Wednesday night. It's a Thursday night.
Thursday.
It's a Thursday night, and we're tired. Clearly, you can already tell by the 10 minutes into this podcast that we are. Star Wars news. So there's been a bit of Star Wars news. The Steel Wars YouTube channel has heard from a source that in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, it's going to be the first time we get to see the live-action versions of the Inquisitors, or Darth Vader's Inquisitors. Do you know much about the Inquisitors in Star Wars? Do you know what they are? Have you played the Star Wars game? That Jedi Fallen Order?
I've started to, but I had to rage quit, unfortunately.
It's hard work, isn't it? I did that the first time and I had to go back. So I did just one of them. I just couldn't get into it. And then, do you know what? It's a really good game. I know we're not a gaming podcast, but I really enjoyed it. The Inquisitors are basically former Jedis who've been turned to the dark side by like the Emperor and Darth Vader, and now they go around hunting Jedis.
Okay.
They reckon that an actress called Moses Ingram, who was in The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, she's going to be playing an Inquisitor. I find it quite... Only when I read it, I realised that we've never seen him in live action. Because, I mean, I've heard, seen him in games, and they're in, like, the cartoons or, the animated TV series. So it's going to be quite good seeing him in live action. Yeah. Bit more non-DC, non-Marvel news. I was dead excited today. This has just come out. There have been some pictures released by Entertainment Weekly for the Masters of the Universe Revelation TV series that's going to be coming to Netflix. So it's the He-Man TV series, basically. Was He-Man before your time, Anthony?
Yeah, it was 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah. You're only 5 years younger than me. I'm not that old.
I was born in 90, so...
He-Man was like my childhood, so I'm absolutely buzzing for this. And so it's going to be coming to Netflix. It's on the 23rd of July, the first part. So it's been split into 2 parts. Kevin Smith is writing it and putting it together, which is great. But the big thing is it's supposed to be a continuation from the original 80s cartoon rather than it being like a complete reboot. And they've kept, obviously it's a more modern look, but they've kept all the looks from the original 80s cartoon. So they've not like, completely modernized costumes and stuff. It just looks like the same costumes. It's got a really good cast as well. It's got a guy called Chris Wood who was in Supergirl apparently. I've not really watched Supergirl, but he's going to be playing He-Man and Prince Adam. It's got Mark Hamill as Skeletor. It's got Sarah Michelle Gellar as Teela, who is like...
love Sarah Michelle Gellar. Buffy.
Sarah Michelle Gellar is brilliant. And then Lena Headey as Evelyn, who is like...
Oh, no way.
Skeletor. Yeah, so it's got a really good cast. So, I mean, I was excited anyway, because I'm like a proper 80s kid and loved He-Man when I was little, but looking at the pictures and looking at the cast, it's going to be really interesting. And again, 23rd of July, so something else for us to talk about on the podcast. So something else for us to go through. Marvel news then. So we've got tons of Marvel news this week. We talked last week about Drax potentially being a goner in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because of comments that I know it's hard to talk about, but because of comments that Dave Bautista had made about him being the end for Drax, he's clearly had a bit of a telling off, bit of a bollocking from Marvel, and he's gone into backtrack mode. So he's said on Twitter that Drax isn't going anywhere. He just won't be played by this dude. By the time Guardians 3 comes out, I'll be 54 years old, for God's sake. I'm expecting everything to start sagging any second now. That is definite backpedaling, that, isn't it? 54, though? I didn't realise he was that old.
I didn't realise he was that old.
That to me just says, oops, shit. I shouldn't have said that. And then James Gunn came out and replied to it as well, and he said, there's no Drax for me without you, buddy. So I think he's trying to... There's no way they're going to just like recast Drax, is there? No. Come on. We're not stupid. Either he just doesn't want to do it anymore and he's got ahead of himself, or he knows that they're going to kill Drax off, I would imagine. But hopefully it's I'd be happier if he if he doesn't want to play him anymore, fair play. Write him out of the story, but leave him there to potentially come back in the future rather than killing him off, I think. MODOK as well. We've got some MODOK news. So the MODOK, I want to say cartoon, but it's not really a cartoon. It's animated, though. That's coming out on Hulu on the 21st of May. Yeah. There's a couple of bits of news on this. The showrunner, Jordan Bloom, has told comicbook.com that the series will not be set in the MCU, and it's set in its own universe. I thought that was kind of obvious from the trailer. It's all like cartoony and different people playing... different people voicing Iron Man and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's very comical. I mean, it's MODOK living at home in the suburbs with his wife and 2 kids while he runs the world. So I'm not too surprised. One thing I did quite like though from the interview, Patton Oswalt, who does the voice of MODOK, he said he'd be well up for playing live action MODOK in the MCU. He said it'd be a brilliant part because he just gets to sit down the whole time, which I appreciate right now, to be fair, after doing this of an evening. What do you reckon? Would you be up for Patton Oswalt doing the voice of MODOK in live action? Do you think we need him? Do you think they can get away with MODOK in the MCU? How weird he is. Well, weird shit's happened, hasn't it? It has. And honest. I think the fact that we're getting into, even like looking at the costumes in the MCU in Phase 4 so far and what we know is coming, it's a lot more comic book accurate. And they don't look stupid or anything like that, but I think they're probably at the point now where we could potentially get away with being a bit more out there. Yeah. If you know what I mean, for want of a better word or better words. But I'd be well up for that. I think Patton Oswalt. I like Patton Oswalt. I think he'd be good just voicing him, and he's gonna have to be CG clearly, but yeah, that'd be good. We got some new posters for Black Widow because we're getting closer, and they need to. It feels like this thing's been marketed for years. Years. I just want the film now.
She is literally going to be a Black Widow because everyone around will be dead.
So I appreciate it, but I feel like they're having to really just put anything out that they can do. So there were 6 posters released. We had one of Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, one as Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, Rachel Weisz's character Melina, David Harbour's character as Alexei. There was a Taskmaster one, which didn't have any actor's name on it because obviously we're supposed to not know who that is. And then we had the last one is of O.T. Fag Bentley's character Mason. And it's just O.T. Fag Bentley in a leather jacket. It's just a dude. Which, to be fair, I'm just thinking, I don't really recall seeing him much, if at all, in the trailers. And now he's got his own poster. Surely that hints at the fact that he's Taskmaster. Because otherwise, why would he get his own poster?
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you?
You think, yeah. I mean, there's some people on Twitter saying that they think that Taskmaster might be female, which I'm up for that. That's fine. But I just think, why would you just randomly start marketing O.T. Fag Bentley's character now of Mason if he's not got something like a much bigger role than he's been seen to have so far? I mean, we've had 27 trailers for this thing already, and he's probably got about 3 seconds of screen time in all of them. Yeah. So they've had plenty of opportunity to push him by now. But yeah, that'll be. I'm really looking forward to it, but it just feels like it's been too long now, and I just need to come out. So that's out, as we know, on the 9th of July. We'll do a bonus episode because we're going to be well into the thick of Loki by then. So rather than trying to cram that all into one episode, we will be doing a bonus episode of that. So we'll put dates out and stuff for that. On those posters, we did have a couple of people on Twitter getting in touch. The funny one I thought, Paul Sears on Twitter said he put Taskmaster's suit looks cool, nice shield, looks like another well-known shield. It does look, apart from the pattern on it, it does make me wonder though whether it's like is it going to be vibranium, or is it going to be like, is it going to like bend like John Walker's just like as soon as he gets into a fight, because that clearly didn't do well. Don't know. We'll see, eh? Ms. Marvel news. Variety's confirmed that they've now wrapped filming in Thailand, and the whole of episodes 4 and 5 were filmed there, so it's going to play a big part in the story. I'm quite impressed with this because it is supposed to be coming out this year, and with all the delays that we've had so far, I just don't know. I just saw it getting delayed and rolling off into 2022. So pretty good news that it's actually now wrapped filming, and hopefully we can get a date at some point, because I think at the moment they've only said it's this year sometime, haven't they?
Yeah, they haven't confirmed at what point. So don't know
when it's coming out. Yeah, fingers crossed. Now that it's wrapped filming, hopefully we'll get a date quite soon. Ghost Rider. We got Ghost Rider news. That's us. That's Disney listening to our podcast, as we've already said. Listen to the podcast, seeing what the people want. Everybody loved the Ghost Rider episode because it was funny, and we realised how good of a film it is. It's not.
Everyone loves our marketing ideas. And
that's it.
They're just running with it all.
Off. They just rip us off, aren't they? They just need to start paying us to do it. I'm all right. I just just a little bit of that Disney money, because a billionth of a percent, and we'd be absolutely loaded. But there is Ghost Rider news. We'll get to a point. So the hashtag that hashtag show has said that they have been told that he is going to appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is amazing. But a little bit gutted. It's going to be a new incarnation of Johnny Blaze. So,
what do you mean you're gutted? Cage. Don't even lie. I'm not being
I kind
funny.
of am now, though.
No.
I kind of am.
No.
Honestly,
I
would love to
if
see
I
Nick
even
Cage.
get a whiff of Nick Cage coming anywhere near the MCU ever again, I'll be getting the first flight over to America, and I'll be going and having words with Phase Rhymes with Beige and being like, sort your shit out.
I think it'd be brilliant
just
to have Nick Cage.
It
just depends. I think it depends on how they use him in the film. If they use him as if it's a bit of a cameo, Nick Cage all day.
Can he? If he comes in dead arrogant, being like, "I've come here to save the day," and then immediately gets killed by something else, I'll allow it. That's it. He's not allowed more than 7 words.
I want Nick Cage back now.
No.
He sold it to me. Ghost Rider last week has just completely sold me on Nick Cage. I know. I just trying to be argumentative.
Was going to see monkeys.
We'd have to have monkey. Do you know what the MCU would just be filled with monkey TV shows then, wouldn't it? At the end of the day.
Can you imagine his reaction if he got a casting Planet of the Apes?
He would do that for. I know he's desperate for money, and he'd do anything, but I reckon he'd do that one for free. I reckon he'd do it for free. We had last bit of Marvel news then before we get into the trailer. Emily Blunt was interviewed on the Howard Stern show this week.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
No.
No. Okay. So I thought this was really weird. I read this in a couple of places as news, and I was a bit like, I don't really think this is news, because she's basically just denying being in the Fantastic Four, or denying being contacted with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And I was just literally scrolling through Twitter earlier today, and I saw an actual video of the interview.
Yeah.
And it's Howard Stern, and he just comes out of nowhere and says something along the lines of, "What are your thoughts on all these rumors that you and John are going to be cast as Reed and Sue Richards?" And she shakes her head and all that sort of stuff. And she says, it's pure. He doesn't ask the question. He doesn't say, "Are you in it?"
Yeah.
He just says, "What are your thoughts on all the rumors?" And she says, No. It's just pure fan casting. No one has received a phone call. And I thought, that's a weird thing to say. No one has received a phone call. And then I thought back to last week, when as soon as anybody mentioned it to Andrew Garfield about being in No Way Home, literally just they didn't say specifically to him, "Are you in it?" They mentioned him potentially being in it, and again he just sort of went down the route of saying, no, it's not true, I didn't get a phone call. And I wonder, has Kevin Feige told them all just to say, if anyone says anything, say you didn't get a phone call, because I just thought it was a weird way to answer it. Wouldn't you just say we haven't been contacted, rather than going straight to we didn't get a phone call? Am I overanalyzing this?
No, because what I'm thinking is if they contact anybody, and then they might just have a line that you say that you haven't been contacted, you haven't had a phone call. So if they're saying that, then they're all saying the same thing. So it seems a bit... I don't know. I don't want to get people's hopes up, but at the same time, I really want Emily and John to be...
That's it. That's that superhero thing podcast first exclusive. Andrew Garfield is now confirmed to be in Spider-Man. I always say this. Spider-Man No Way Home, and John Krasinski and Emily Blunt are confirmed. We figured it out. We figured out with Kevin Feige's cryptic clues. That's what it is. Anytime anybody in Hollywood says they didn't get a call, it means yes, they have had a call, and that's it. And Kevin Feige rang them.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they'll be in it. I think they'd be brilliant in it.
They would.
I think that. I think the danger now is
there was pictures of John Cena as Thingy from Fantastic Four as well. Yeah, the Thing, not Thingy.
I think no, not Thingy. I think I've seen so much fan casting though, and it is it's always John Krasinski. Not always, but. I think a lot of it people are sold on the fact that it'll be John and Emily now.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'll be a little bit gutted if it's not. I know we've talked about this before, but I think the thing is though, it's gonna have to be amazing casting if it's not them.
I was going to say it's not just fan casting; it actually suits incredibly well, in my opinion.
It does.
In a lot of people's opinion, and that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of time when you see it and you go, "Oh yeah, that'd be quite cool if they did," but when you look at John and Emily, you go, "Actually." Like, they could really pull that up. That could be amazing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think they need to pay... And I know she says it's fan casting, but I think they need to pay attention to things like fan casting because clearly enough fans want it to be.
It's overwhelming, isn't it, the amount?
Yeah. And people are just sold on it. And as I said, the big danger is they're going to have to come out with something, like, amazing for people not to go, oh, well, I'd rather it was... John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, but we'll see. It can't be long now before we start getting some casting news on that.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. Well, you've already had the casting news, haven't you? As I said, we've got an exclusive. That's it. We've figured out Kevin Feige's cryptic code. Emily Blunt is going to be starring in Fantastic Four. You heard it here first. Venom trailer. Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer. Let's break this bad boy down because I had a lot of things written down about this one. Specifically the opening. But just to then, so it's coming out in the US on the 24th of September. Again, though, we in the UK are getting it earlier. Apparently, we are getting it on the 15th of September. So we're getting 9 days before the US.
Oh.
So we are going to have a serious think about how and when we're going to do these reviews so that we're not ruining it for everybody outside of the UK.
Well, again, we wouldn't ruin it for anybody. If they decide to press play, they ruin it for themselves. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's my input. I think that
your input?
We should just do it when it comes out for us. And if you are in the US and you haven't watched it yet, just don't listen to us until you've watched it.
No, just listen to part of the podcast until you've watched it, because we don't want nobody to listen to the podcast. Anthony, shut up, Anthony. Shh. Don't tell them not to listen.
No, I'm not telling them not to listen. I'm just saying don't listen yet.
Let's get on to let's move on quick. Let's get on to the trailer. We'll break it down. I've got a few bits written down. What did you think of the trailer, though, Anthony? What did you think of the trailer? Did it sell it?
Okay. So at first, I was a bit like, huh?
What with the opening?
With the everyone just knows that he's attached to Venom, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Venom!" Like, it's just cool. And I
don't get the impression it's everyone. I think it's just Mrs. Chen.
Well, I found it unusual, and then the breakfast scene was weird and unnecessary.
Yeah.
But then when it got to the gritty stuff, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen.
So the non-comic bits sold it to you, and the
comic bits made me go,
didn't.
Oh.
I'm
worried that it's going to be a little bit too slapsticky.
I know it just reminded me. There were a couple of things in this which we'll get to, but it really reminded me of Ghost Rider. the whole tone of it, the whole tone of the film, the trailer, just the start. It did, but when I watched it for the first time, because that breakfast scene, that opening breakfast scene, and like saying hello to Mrs. Chen and all that sort of stuff, it went on for quite a while because it was a long teaser trailer. It was like 2.5-3 minutes.
Yeah, and
we were good like 45 seconds to a minute in, and I was like, this is not the tone that I thought it was going to be. And I was just sat there thinking, where's this even going, this film? And I think once we got onto the darker bits, the more gritty stuff, like you've just said, it won me round on the first viewing of the trailer a bit more. But I'll be honest, after watching it a couple of times so that I could like make notes for the podcast, even the funny bits have quite sold me now. I'm quite looking forward to like the breakfast scene and stuff like that. I thought it was quite interesting, but it is definitely a very different tone, and the fact that it seems like from the whole trailer, it's like Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock hardly has a single word in the trailer. It's all Venom. Yeah. It's all Venom singing and singing at the songs, singing at the start. Sorry, singing the song at the start. What is it? Let's call the whole thing off or something like that. And then when he throws all the breakfast down, he goes yummy like that. It just instantly made me think of Surprise from Surprise. I want to see an interview with Venom and Ghost Rider, just them two talking to each other, just them two talking to each other with the deep voices, or a podcast. Get them to do a podcast of Venom. Should we do a whole podcast in the voice of Venom and Ghost Rider?
And then just have Christian Bale's Batman turn up
at the very end, yeah, talking for no reason. We had Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy. I think he's getting the death penalty in the film, like in the trailer. But then he turns into Carnage. He looks so much better in this than he did at the end of Venom 1 with that stupid ginger wig he had on his head, doesn't he?
Yeah.
They've definitely got it. It did seem like at the end of that film they just like were like, oh great, we found out today Woody Harrelson's going to be playing Cletus Cassidy. Let's get him in. Oh, he's bald, brilliant. Just find a wig. Just get him a ginger wig and just put something on his head quick, because Cletus Cassidy needs some red hair, and that's all they've done. Whereas at this point, they've
honestly, do you know what the wig made me think of when I first saw it?
What?
Angry Kid. Do you remember?
Yeah. No one's gonna know what we're talking about.
No.
Google, go on YouTube. Listeners, if you don't know what Angry Kid is, go on YouTube and just search for Angry Kid. And then come back and say thank you for us introducing you for Anthony introducing you to Angry Kid. It's brilliant. But yeah, he did look like Angry Kid. But yeah, he looks so much better. We also see in the trailer Naomi Harris as Shriek, and she's like locked up. She's a Spider-Man villain in the comics, and I think she's Cletus Cassidy's girlfriend. We also see in the trailer, but again, I don't know who he's playing. Stephen Graham from loads of things. He was in Line of Duty here in the UK, and the last series of Line of Duty.
Yes,
did you see him?
I thought it was him, and I was like, yeah, it was Stephen Graham. Way.
Yeah, and Snatch, and I think he was in The Irishman.
He was in that
This Is England as well. Film. He was in This Is England, yeah. But so he's doing all right, isn't he? Got into I say he's doing all right. It's Venom 2, but he's in Venom 2, which is good. Did you notice it's been all over the internet, the newspaper that he's reading the Daily Bugle,
the murderer thing? No,
I don't know. What was the murderer thing? Go on. What was the murderer on the front cover?
No, I think I've got two things mixed up. Continue. Ignore me.
Okay. Continue and ignore you. Okay, that's fine. So it looks like when he's flicking through the pages and he's like crumpling up the newspaper, it looks like there's an article in there about the Avengers. Now,
yes, you can only make out, I did see that as well.
You can only make out Vengers or Avenger, something like that. But people are all over it. So people were saying, oh, it must be set in the MCU. But then if you look at the Daily Bugle logo, it's a paper for a start, because in the MCU the Daily Bugle's not a newspaper, it's a YouTube news website, isn't it? But it's the Raimi version Daily Bugle logo, or very similar to it. So what is it in? What universe is it set in?
Yeah.
I mean, Andy Serkis did an interview, and because he's directing it, and he said that it's all very much set in its own universe, this one. So it's not Raimi, it's not MCU, but I think he said something along the lines of let's see where it goes. And I got a little bit worried because I was thinking it's got like very DC vibes here. As to be like, oh, well, there's this universe and there's that universe, and it's too many universes. I don't know what they just, I don't know, because it's like with the Morpheus trailer.
That's where my murderer thing
Keaton
came
was
from.
In it. Oh, the Spider-Man poster.
Yeah, well, it's graffiti, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's a poster
on the wall, and then someone's written murder over it in more graffiti.
But the poster was the Raimi suit. The poster had the Raimi Spider-Man suit, but then Michael Keaton apparently is in the trailer. Now, I've watched the Morpheus trailer.
Yeah,
I'm
Michael
pretty
Keaton
sure
is in the trailer.
I cannot remember seeing Michael Keaton in the trailer.
No, 100% he is in, because I watched a load of adverts for like all the ones that are coming up in the next couple of months, and he is in it, and he looks exactly like he did in Far From Home. No, Homecoming. No,
Homecoming.
Yeah. So I was like, oh.
What are they doing? I have got proper DC vibes on this,
but
so they need to just sort it out.
But if you think about the Sony Disney agreement that happened more recently, it then kind of making me think, well,
maybe they're playing nice now.
Is that the start of it? Is this where this is going because they've made do you know what I mean? Like I just don't know.
I think the fact that we've now got the multiverse coming into the MCU as well, like it's certain now we've got the multiverse coming in.
Yeah,
they can do anything, can't they?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? I mean, they could have them all interacting. They could say, well, we don't like that Venom, we're going to have our own MCU Venom, which would be brilliant if we could, because I'd love to see what Kevin Feige and that would do with Venom, rather than Sony again. I mean, I quite liked the last Venom film, but it was in the same sort of realm as Ghost Rider. It was a bit cheesy and just not. I don't know. I know it did really, really well at the box office, but it was just okay. To be fair, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't a great film, if you know what I mean. So Carnage, we get to see Carnage for the first time. He looks pretty much what I thought he was going to look like. To be fair, I don't know what I expected. I thought he'd be more. I can't think of how to explain this. More stringy. Do you get? Does that stupid to say?
No, I get you.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just like a big bulky Venom, and I thought they'd go down like a really like skinny.
Well,
stringy look for Carnage, if you know what I mean.
I heard because I tried to I watched it again just to see if I could see, and it gets so fast paced, like things moving around on the screen and stuff. I couldn't make it out, but I heard something about there's like a third. Like toxic or toxin or something it's called. Yeah.
Do you know what I did think? I think I've seen some
it's
people
it's
saying
been mentioned that I think toxin, it's toxic.
Yeah,
toxin.
I didn't know who Stephen Graham was supposed to be playing, but I have seen a couple of things that say he's got something to do with toxin.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I've not read the Venom comics.
But I think that'd be quite exciting Twitter, if we've been built up for this film where it's like, oh, Carnage is coming into it, so it's going to be a Carnage v Venom, and then actually there's a whole other kind of what's it called, symbiote altogether that's come into it, and
Carnage gets killed in like the first 10 minutes or something. He's like the first
imagine
guy or something. Yeah, wouldn't it?
It'd be a fantastic twist, wouldn't it? So
yeah.
Dunno.
Yeah.
That's my theory. There we go.
I like it. There's our theory. Sorry if we've just ruined it for you. When you come back in 6 months and listen to this, and he's like, God, they ruined it for me. They're on fire tonight. They're on fire. Then at the very end of the trailer, I thought it was quite. We went back to the comic route, which I thought was really good. I thought it was really funny when they go to see Mrs. Chen, and the chocolate delivery hasn't come, and what's his face? Venom says, "I am happy to eat Mrs. Chen." I thought that was really good. I was laughing at that bit. It's quite good. But again, it's a very Venom's supposed to be like not scary, but he is a bit scary. Do you get? I say I grew up with Venom being on the Spider-Man cartoon, and he wasn't a scary character, but he was very sinister, and there was nothing funny or likable about him. Even when he became like a bit of an anti-hero in the cartoon, he was still like personality-wise, he was still just like a scary dude. And this isn't my Venom. Do you know what I mean? That sounds really dramatic, but it does feel
not
like
my Captain America.
It's not my Captain America. They've just made him a bit. I mean, I appreciate all the comic aspects of the film, but that's why I'd like to see an MCU version. You know, a little bit truer to the comics, not like that Topher Grace version, because that was rubbish as well. We had a couple of listeners contact us on Twitter about the Venom trailer. So we had Jessica Barry on Twitter. She said that the nothing with the little hand gesture at the end killed me. She thought that was good. She said she likes the stupid comedy of older Marvel movies, but doesn't want a whole movie of it. So she hopes that Serkis will deliver a darker movie than Fleischer did in the first one, but it doesn't look very promising based on the trailer. Fair. I get that, and I get the concerns as well. And then the Bitch Watch podcast. Boss name, we should have picked Bitch Watch podcast for our podcast on Twitter. They think the poster, because a new poster came out as well, and the trailer looks sick. She said that she might actually drag her out of the house and back to the theaters. Her husband and her thoroughly enjoyed the first one, and this looks just as good. Very, very different opinions, both completely valid opinions, but I think it just depends on what you like, doesn't it, and what you want from the movie. But I think this is really going to divide fans. I think some people are absolutely going to hate it and just think, like me, what have they done to Venom? And then you're going to get other people who just think it's absolutely brilliant. And I think it'll probably be you thinking it's brilliant and me thinking it's crap. And that'll be the review. Spoilers for our review on the 16th of September, but that's pretty much where it's going to be going. Yeah. So that is pretty much it for news this week. So should we start? We haven't started the Loki Countdown yet. Should we start the Loki Countdown, Anthony?
Yeah,
officially starting the Loki Takeover and the Loki Countdown. So as we said, we are going to go through, for the next 4 weeks, we are going to fly through all Loki's major MCU appearances. I say major, I think all his MCU appearances. And we're going to do Thor this week. Next week will be Avengers and Thor: The Dark World, and so on, and we'll get there right up to the launch of the new Loki series. And then we'll go through the series every week. Send us your theories, send us your thoughts on the series when it starts as well. We've got a couple of theories already this week for what's coming in the Loki series, but we'll go through them. We'll go through them every week. So let's talk about Thor. Should we just we'll do a breakdown of it. We'll be a little bit quicker with the breakdown because everyone's seen it. Everyone's seen it. So we're basically just going to pick it. We're just going to pick it apart, basically, aren't we? Yeah. I think that's pretty much where we're going to go. So it starts with Jane. I thought it started with Thor, but it doesn't. It starts with Jane, Eric, and
Darcy. I thought I'd missed a bit when I started it, and I was like, "Hang on, is this actually how it starts?" And then
I thought it started with young Thor.
You'd messaged me because you were about 40 minutes ahead of me, weren't you, watching it? And you were like, "Honestly, you're going to feel sick from the amount of camera angles."
And that was the very first thing I wrote down.
in the lead up to them hitting the tornado, which we obviously find out is Thor being shafted to Earth. Yeah. After I read that message, I literally looked up, and within 2 minutes, I counted 19 camera angle changes.
It was just...
And I was like, Jesus, this is constant.
I felt like seasick after watching it. And just that bit, just the start bit. Kenneth Branagh directed this. Kenneth Branagh is he's a good actor and he's a good director. Yeah. But I've got a lot to say about the film, but what was with all the angles? It was just a lot. Like literally, it's like when there's a scene where they're walking through the corridor of a hospital, and it's like it might as well be on its side. Literally, the whole screen might as well be completely on its side. And then you go to the next scene and they're on the completely opposite side, and it's just I don't get it. It's like,
see, to be fair, this is how I felt with Doctor Strange.
Yeah, but at least Doctor Strange, it formed part of the story. I just don't know where they were going. I don't know what they were thinking. But yeah, so we start with those three in the New Mexico desert. There's a storm which turns out to be the Bifrost, and then they go to drive through it, and they crash into Thor, and that again, I thought that was well into the film, but apparently it's here. We then go to Tonsberg in Norway. In I think it's 965 AD. So Tonsberg is where New Asgard is in Endgame.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so that's that. I didn't even know that we'd ever been there before in the MCU when I was watching Endgame. It was only when I watched this and I was like, oh, it was the same. It was the same place. And we get Odin narrating. I kind of missed Sam Elliott narrating. I kind of wish we'd had. I like Anthony Hopkins, but I would have liked Sam Elliott and his mustache. So he's basically telling the story that the Frost Giants went to Earth. They tried to freeze, basically, I don't know why they did want to freeze Earth, but they wanted to freeze the Earth, and Odin showed up and stopped them. And then we see Asgard for the first time, and it's only again when I've gone back to this. This is the first time we've not been on Earth in the MCU. Obviously. Not now, but when this came out, this is the first time we left the Earth. What were your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this? Because Asgard seems to change quite a bit between Thor 1, Thor 2, and Thor 3. What did you think? What did you think of the way that they did Asgard?
There's a lot of gold.
It was a lot of gold. It looks plastic though.
I know, yeah.
It didn't look like gold. It looked like plastic.
Do you know what? It's really funny because while I was watching the film, I did think to myself, God, they're pushing as much of the Earth scenes on this as possible and keeping as little on Asgard as possible. And I think it's just because it was quite a big leap, knowing that it was the first one to leave Earth. And then all I could think of when I zoomed out of, and I'm going to call it because it's all I can think of, Rainbow Road. When you zoom out of the actual bridge, the Bifrost Bridge, all I can think of is Mario Kart and Rainbow Road. I literally zoomed out and I just went, "Here we go!" on my own. Do you know what I mean?
Now that's all I'm ever going to be able to think of when we see the Bifrost. Well done, Anthony, and all the listeners. And all the listeners, you just ruined it for everybody.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I just thought it was they were clearly going for like, I couldn't think of what the way to describe it. Like fantastical. It was like as not extravagant, but
sounds
let's make
daft.
This is
best way to describe it. So if you've ever seen the Disney version of Hercules, when they go up to Olympus, like it's just very shiny and grand.
Very exactly.
But also at the same time, so generic in general.
Yes, that's it. Generic. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's very generic. There's nothing
it's your generic idea of like Valhalla or something of that intent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Purity, the gold colours, the skyscrapers, the spires. You know, all of that kind of stuff. It's the very generic way of looking at something that you perceive to be kind of godly and majestic.
Yeah. But it was a bit too much. They seem to have toned it down for the future ones, haven't they? But
yeah.
It was a bit.
Well, they made it look more like a city, kind of by the second and third one. Obviously, kind of sticking.
It was just all palaces. It was like everyone lived in a palace, or everyone lived in the palace. From this one, that was the impression you got. There was nothing outside of that, was it? Asgard was just Thor in the palace, and everybody who served Thor.
Yeah,
that was kind of it. So we then, while Odin's telling the story, not Sam Elliott, gutted, we see Thor as a kid and Loki as a kid, and Thor as a kid is the most obnoxious little pain in the arse I've ever met, with the stupid actions he's doing, like I'm going to hunt them down and kill them and all that sort of stuff. It was just like, grow up. And he does very quickly, because we only see him for 2 seconds, and then we just get obnoxious Thor for an hour, basically.
Yeah.
He's not. And do you know what? I wrote this down further on into the review, but like 45 minutes to an hour into this movie, Thor has got like no redeeming qualities whatsoever. He's got no personality. He's a bit of a dick. Yeah. And he just is madly in love with himself. And it's like, this is the hero of the film, and probably until like the last 20 minutes, he's a bit of a dick. Yeah. And all the way through. So, but we see him, and it's supposed to be his coronation, and he's in his full Thor costume. He's in the helmet, which doesn't look great. They did a much better job in Ragnarok. He's got the cape, and when I was looking at the cape, it's like he's got these like big puffy bits on his shoulders that like really do you know what I mean? Like stick the cape up. And I've obviously seen this film before, but I didn't realise until like further in the film, it's like that's not like something he's wearing for the coronation to be, you know, to look all decorative and stuff. That's like his
everyday
cape.
His
actual everyday. That's his everyday walking around.
That's his dog walking cape, didn't you know?
Exactly, it's his dog walking cape. That's his doing the dishes cape. That's what he just wears for everything. But it's like, it's just too. It was again. It's this like really fantastical, a little bit.
And do you know
over
what?
The top.
Weirdly, throughout the same 45 minutes, I found myself feeling very sorry for Loki.
Oh, I've got loads to say about Loki. Yeah,
like I think
really sorry
because
for him.
I've not. When I've watched Thor, even since now, like I've watched it and just watched the film. Whereas this time going in knowing that I was focusing on Loki's story, I was like, man, he's been dealt a bit of a shit card here.
He has, hasn't he?
And he's watching as basically the whole world is moving around him and he's stuck in this one place. And then the bomb drops of his identity and he's like, the fuck am I meant to do with this?
But it's all about Thor, and everything's about Thor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's a bit of a dick. All
the
way through the film.
Imagine seeing your brother, knowing how much of an idiot he is, and like the fact that he's all just ego, and then watching everything get promised to him anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
even though he's
and so
even though he's clearly not the right man for the job.
Yeah, and I don't know, like I just felt myself going, do you know what? I'd have probably decided to go and take over a world and cause havoc.
The thing is, though, until we're skipping to the end here, but we'll go through it bit by bit. But until probably I don't know exactly like how many minutes, but really, really late into the film, Loki doesn't actually really do anything massively wrong, and then they just turn him. They turn him in the film, and it doesn't make sense. He goes from like a little bit tortured himself, and okay, maybe you shouldn't have done that, to turn into a murderer. And it's like, I don't get. They take a really big jump with that, but I think because when you go in and you're sort of told from the start Thor's the hero and Loki's the villain, you just buy it. But it's having gone into this now, focusing on Loki, it does make you realise how shit a hand he's been dealt, and how I always think of Loki as being such a popular character and like the one-off villain who wasn't sort of forgettable and got killed, and never seen again, because he had such good character development. And he has, I suppose, over the years as a whole. But the character development
just look
of him
at
in this
movie,
one
film,
but there's a lot of depth to him, and you understand it. But at the same time, I don't understand it, because he goes from, not the best, not that I say human being, not the best person in the world, but he goes from an all right dude to a killer, just for no reason. It doesn't all make sense. I mean, you start off, so at this coronation. Sorry, I didn't say. Why does Chris Hemsworth have a bleached beard and bleached eyebrows?
I don't know.
That's why he looks weird. That's why he looks weird in this film, innit?
Yeah.
Why did he? Why?
I don't know. It's odd.
It is very odd. It's the eyebrows at first, isn't it? So when you see the eyebrows, you look at him and you think, there's something not right about Chris Hemsworth in this film. What is it? And then you twig onto the fact that his eyebrows
I thought it was the hair, because the hair's styled differently in the first.
He's got a bob. He's got a bob rather than long Thor hair.
He looks like Karen from Finance.
No. I was going to say he looks like Rachel in Friends. He's got the same haircut as Rachel in Friends. For the first 5 series, he's got the Rachel cut. But
Brad Pitt watched the film and went, ooh.
Anyway, so we have the coronation, and while the coronation's going on, the Frost Giants have snuck into the Odin's treasure room or weapons vault.
Yeah.
And we see in there, you see the Infinity Gauntlet, which has got all the Infinity Stones in it, which we obviously know is fake from Ragnarok. And there's a few bits, but one thing I saw in there, which I assume was supposed to be, and it's obviously all been retconned. There's like this big thing, and it's the shape of an eye, and it's got a big green stone in the middle. And I assume that was supposed to be the Eye of Agamotto, but obviously they then realised where they're going with the MCU. But the fact that there's something like that in there, and then the Infinity Gauntlet in there, makes me think either Marvel planned really, really, really far ahead, and they knew they were going to end up with Hela going in there and saying it's all fake, or they at this stage weren't planning that far ahead, and they didn't think they were going to get to, or potentially going to get to.
I think they didn't.
Stones.
I think they didn't know, and at this point, those things being in there were kind of a nod to the big stories within the comic. Yeah, I think that's all it was. But I think there's also that idea of they'll put them in and they'll go, if we need to use them in the future, we know they're there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even later on, for the fact that they've gone, well, actually they were faked. Like, that is even cooler, because it was something that did end up coming, but wasn't that one. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's,
and they didn't just do the continuity of like the problem with the X-Men films and go, oh, we'll just pretend that didn't happen. They retconned it. They went in and went, well, that's fake, and they made a joke out of the fact that we shouldn't have probably put that into the first Thor film if we were planning ahead, rather than just going, oh, it wasn't in there. Well, what throne room? There wasn't a throne room. There was no vaults. There's no such thing as Odin's treasure vaults. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. So these Frost Giants break in. They see all this stuff, and then the Destroyer. It's the first time we see the Destroyer, and it does its job, and it just kills the Frost Giants. And then Thor and Loki and Odin. Loki still hasn't said a word apart from Kid Loki. Tom Hiddleston's not had a line yet at this stage, which I thought was quite surprised by.
No, but again, I think that's an intended thing. Like, I think that they've done that on purpose to show that he is constantly overshadowed by Thor. Yeah, he doesn't get the opportunity
I didn't pick up on
to
that
speak
at the time, but yeah, no, I agree.
But this is the thing, and like, because you said you feel like he's just gone from that to killing. I don't think he has. I think.
I still do. No, I still think he's gone from.
I think we've sat and watched him constantly be overshadowed, constantly be second guessed all the way through that, and then the bomb drops that he is not who he thinks he is. He's got no real connection with any of the people that are around him. So he's gone, well, why do I care about any of them? Why do I give a shit, basically? And I think that's what changed it. I think it's the fact that he's not even Asgardian.
Yeah, I thought that. And then at one point I thought that in the film. And we'll get there when we get there, I suppose. But then stuff happens towards the end that makes me go, well, no, I don't think that's his way of thinking. But which is why it doesn't make sense to me. But should we get?
Okay, yeah.
We'll get there when we get. We'll get there when we get. No, it's all right.
I'm just so excited.
But I know it's a different film when you watch it for Loki, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
I'm hoping that Thor: The Dark World's a better film when I watch it because it was shit.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping now that it becomes Loki: The Dark World, how we're gonna watch it, it'll be a very different film. So so Thor and Loki and Odin go to the treasure vault or weapons vault, whatever you want to call it, and Thor's kicking off saying he wants to go to Jotunheim and he wants to destroy all the frost giants, blah 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 blah, and Loki's just kind of like watching, like, oh, shut up, sort of thing, isn't he? Just like watching this whole thing unfold. He's like, oh, don't say that, and then Odin does that thing, which again I remember this. He's like, but you're not king yet, or something like that, and it's like he just shuts Thor down completely, but quite rightly, because Thor at this stage wants to, because of, as far as he's concerned, a couple of frost giants who, as Odin says, could just be a couple of idiots. He now wants to go and completely take over an entire realm and potentially kill them all. So he's just as bad. He's kind of just as bad as Loki is in Avengers, because Loki wants to go to Earth, which is just another realm, and take over and kill them all. But it's kind of what Thor wants to do at this stage, and he's just sees the opportunity to go, because a couple of frost giants have broke into the treasure room. And then we then see Thor having a little tantrum and throwing tables over and all that sort of stuff. And Loki, when I first saw this, I thought Loki's stirring shit here. Do you know what I mean? By saying like, oh, I agree with you and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But further into the film, I'm not actually sure he was. I actually think he was probably siding with Thor and saying, I completely agree with you. We should go in and we should stop him. But we can't. I don't think he was doing that I don't get the impression he was doing that so that he could like convince or manipulate Thor to go to Jotunheim so he could get him banished. I didn't get that. Did you? Do you think that was his plan all along, to get Thor banished?
No, I don't. But I think that Loki is an opportunist, and I think that whatever hand gets dealt, he works to how it can help him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think I don't get the impression that was his plan from the start.
I don't think it was his plan from the start. I think he just went with it when it did happen.
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. So at this point we meet the Warriors 3, I think they're called, Lady Sif and the Warriors 3. I think that's what they call a little group. So it's Fandral, Hogun, Volstagg, who's ridiculous, and and Lady Sif. And this was this just sort of like cemented the fact that it's a serious. We were talking about this, weren't we? It's not a funny film at all. There's no there's no good humor in the film. As in, like, they tried to crack a couple of jokes, but none of them really land, in my opinion.
So you said this to me before I got to the point. Or... No, well, before I got to the point of Thor being on Earth, and actually, I found it quite.
Did you find it funny?
Yeah, because I found it funny that he's the lack of grasping, that no one knows who he is and no one gives a shit, and he's acting like he's the big gun, and people are just like, no, you're not. And he's not, because he's now human. So yeah. Even when he's getting dosed in the hospital, sedated,
yeah,
and all of that kind of stuff, and his face falls against the window, like, that to me was funny, because he's sat there going, well, no, because nothing's really ever had that effect on him before, so he wasn't expecting it in any way. So I still laughed at that. I don't think it's as kind of free flowing as it is in Ragnarok and stuff like that, when
maybe that's what I'm thinking.
They got their traction by that point, and they knew what was working and what wasn't. Thor was still one of the more early day films, and I think they were still trying to figure out how to get him to come across. But I did still enjoy the kind of the funny moments that were in there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay.
Just me. I didn't find it funny. No, but it's one of them, isn't it? It's each their own. But I think maybe you are right. I think because it coming off like it's like when you think of funny MCU films, it's like Ant-Man and Guardians and Thor Ragnarok, and I just think it was nowhere near that level. It was a couple of like tongue-in-cheek moments type of thing.
Yeah.
But it was at the same time it was like the whole tone of the film whenever they were on Asgard was really, it was trying to be serious, but you couldn't take it serious because of how, I don't know what to use. It had like a campy tone to it. Do you know what I mean? Like all like the dressy costumes and stuff. And one of the big things. I mean, we've talked about like the sets and the fact that it all looked really generic. Even like the accents and the way they all acted on Asgard. But the thing that made it look really fit, and I think it looked fake. Asgard looked fake.
Yeah.
Do you agree? And one of the big things was, if you look at these like Warriors 3 and Thor and Lady Sif, they're all supposed to be like these really fierce warriors who love to fight and love to get into battles, and that's what they do and that's what they enjoy doing. But all their like gear and their weapons are all like pristine, plasticky looking things, and all the gear that they're wearing and stuff, and it's like,
yeah,
it's not. Even like when they have that battle on Jotunheim when they go to next, it's like they come out of it and they're all like, there's like no blood. There's no blood on any of them. Even that Fandral who gets a big ice thing stuck through him, there's no blood on any of them. All the gear is like completely clean and pristine.
It's the same with that first fight with the Frost Giants. Anyway, you know, like when they're fighting them and then they released that beast thing.
Yeah.
It just, the whole fight just seemed a little pathetic.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I would like looking back at it now, whereas the first time, kind of these fights, we didn't see them all the time, so we were just kind of going, "Oh God, they're being a bit overwhelmed here." And now I go, actually, I've seen what they've been able to do since. So, what's
But they weren't. I suppose they weren't as powerful. Thor wasn't anywhere near as powerful then, was he?
No.
But it shows. I think it shows how far the MCU's come when you look at this. I mean, but it's weird because I before this there was Iron Man and Iron Man 2 and the Incredible Hulk as well, but I think they were all massively a completely higher level than this film. This really. I think this could have potentially done some damage to the MCU. To be honest, I still enjoyed it at the time, but looking back on it now, I think if they hadn't already had like the Avengers set up, I think this could have potentially done a bit of damage to it, because it was just a bit shit's not the right word, but it just wasn't at the same level as Iron Man. And I know people don't like Iron Man 2, but I just don't feel like it was anywhere near as good as those two. And even what you've just said, like the whole fight scene on Jotunheim, it just wasn't great. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was average at best.
It's weird because I think if we'd have had this conversation when the film first came out, it'd be a very different conversation. I also think what we've got to take into account is that they have learned, you know, as time's gone on, and even looking back to then, the CGI levels between then and now are you just don't realise the incredible difference that it has. You know, I was watching certain bits and I was going, well, you can see they've just been photoshopped into that, you know, into that.
Not like Ghost Rider level bag.
No. It's still good, but because we've been spoilt with such good CGI now, you look back and you can easily spot things that you would never have noticed at the time. So, you know, again, it kind of pulls from it that little bit, but it that's just the time. Like, can't be helped.
Yeah, I suppose we're like you said, we're a bit spoiled now, aren't we, with the level, the quality of the Marvel films and where they've gone, like both, you know, like story and the way they look.
Yeah.
On talking about like how Loki is a bit like screwed up, something that I picked up massively, obviously, because they get there, don't they? They get to Jotunheim and Laufey like winds up Thor. So I think he calls him like Prince. Oh no, one of the Frost Giants says "Go home, princess" or something like that. And when Thor's arguing, Loki steps in and says, like, you know, we need to go.
Yeah.
We need to leave now. And it's when Thor says to Loki, know your place, brother. And that just made me think, no wonder Loki's screwed up. because he's clearly been taught that Thor is in charge, even though you're brothers and you're pretty much the same age.
Yeah.
Thor's like the more senior or superior of the two brothers, and it's like, I think a couple of things have happened up to this point, but it's just one of them things. It's like, no wonder he's I mean, to be fair, surprised he's not completely gone off the rails previously, if this is how he gets talked to and how he gets treated as like second class to Thor. And then another bit in that part is when Loki gets touched by the frost giant and his arm goes blue, and that's obviously when we first realise that there's something going on. I mean, we come back to that later, don't we? But that never really gets revisited again in the entire MCU. That Loki is a frost giant.
Yeah.
Surely there must have been a point at some time in the MCU when Loki really could have used the ability to create
ice.
He
might in the series.
He might do. Maybe that's why Disney's robbed our idea and made us all watch Thor and Thor 2 again, because they're going to go back to...
Yeah.
They're going to go back to him being a...
They've sat there and gone, oh, shit, we forgot about this. Let's put it back in.
they've only watched Thor for the first time in like 20 years or whatever, and it's like, oh god, I forgot it was a frost giant. Maybe we should do something with that. And so they all end up getting beaten to a degree, don't they? Apart from Thor, Fandral gets stabbed. Thor doesn't care at all that Fandral's been stabbed. He's just like, you go. I want to stay here and carry on fighting, which just shows how crap of a leader or a king even that he is.
Yeah.
And then Odin shows up and rescues them all. And then that's when Thor gets banished. Yeah. So he basically, because Thor's a bit of a twat,
thrown backwards over the Rainbow Road.
He does, exactly. But Loki, I thought when I was watching this, because I thought up until now, from memory, that this was all like Loki's plan to get Thor.
He looks genuinely shocked, doesn't he?
To take over. He doesn't look happy, does he? It looks like he's probably the way I read it was, he's looking at this thinking, all I tried to do was mess up his coronation, and shit, now I've ended up getting the Thor banished to Earth. It's gone too far, sort of thing. And he looks genuinely devastated. And then that's when we get Odin whispering to Mjolnir.
Right, I'm so sorry. It looked seductive.
It did, didn't it? It did, like, a little bit.
I'm not, because I was like, I remember him whispering, and I was like, is he going to kiss the hammer? Is he going to do a Miley Cyrus on us and start licking this friggin' hammer?
I'm going to miss you, hammer. I'm going to miss you. Shh, it's okay. Shh. But yeah, it was weird. But what I was thinking was, when he says it, I can't remember exactly what he said. He says something, I wrote it down further on and we'll get there. But it's something he says something along the lines of, whomsoever holds this hammer, shall he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. Does that mean when Steve picks up the hammer at the end of Endgame, he's got the power of Thor? Or was it only once?
No, I think it was just once.
Just once. Basically, that was just Odin setting something up so that if Thor became good again, he could have his powers back.
Basically, yeah. I think he knew that by doing this.
How does he use all the lightning, though, against Thanos?
Who?
Steve?
Because that's the power of the hammer, not the power of Thor.
Okay.
Or so I've. I think it's a bit of both.
What, he's got a bit of power of Thor and a bit of power of the hammer.
No, sorry. I mean, I think that the lightning is a bit of a Thor power, but also a bit of the hammer power.
Maybe.
So I think that's what I could talk
about this for an hour, but
I know, yeah.
I'm not gonna get into it because I was about to argue with something you said. Then I thought, no, let's not do it. We'll get there. We'll get there when we do Endgame. We'll get there. Okay. We'll get there when we do Endgame. Eh? So he gets banished to Earth, and then that's when we get back to the start of the film from Jane and Selvig and Darcy, and something I thought was weird was Thor, because he gets up after he gets hit by the car, doesn't he? And he starts wandering around.
If he's lost all his powers,
hammer.
Well, I thought that van would have killed him.
Yeah, because he was people. He was people then, wasn't he? Yeah. What are you laughing at? He was people. But why does he start walking around going hammer, hammer? Have you ever heard him in the entire MCU call it hammer?
No.
He calls it Mjolnir. He's always calling it Mjolnir, and he calls it hammer. And again, it just felt a bit odd.
Well, again, maybe this is his arrogance being
It's not a name. It's just me hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
I was start singing If I Had a Hammer then, but I'm not going to.
But I think when he gets it back, then that's him realizing that it again, it's more than just a hammer.
It's a people.
It's a people.
It's a people. The hammer's a people too. So we see more of Darcy then as well. Darcy tases Thor. I love Darcy. She was good. She was a bit of, when I used to watch this, she seemed like a bit of a pain in the arse, but maybe it's from her being in WandaVision that she just seems funny. She just seems funny now.
Yeah.
And then we get that hospital scene that you talked about before, about him like trying to fight and saying, "Don't you know who I am? I am the mighty Thor." There were loads of angles in the hospital. It made me feel
there
really
were loads
nauseous.
of angles.
There was like upside down, all that sort of shit. It was all over the place. And then we cut to the desert, where Mjolnir or Hammer has landed, and that dude finds it and starts trying to pull it out. Yeah. And then I think there's a couple of little bits of like thought of Jane realizing that Thor came out of the storm, and then we go back to and Thor escapes and he gets hit by the car again. But then we go back to the Hammer site. I know, because he's been hit by a car twice and survived, even though he's people. I'm going to say that all the way through now. He's people. When he's not people anymore, I'm going to say he's not people anymore. So we then go back to the Hammer site, and that's when we get all these people trying to lift the hammer, and we get a Stan Lee cameo. And it feels like it's been ages since we've had a Stan Lee, because we've not had any MCU for ages. It just feels weird to have it. Oh, we have, but I would imagine if Stan hadn't died, we'd have had some sort of Stan Lee cameo in like WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. And it feels like every time new MCU came out, you'd always look out for the cameo, or the Stanio, I know they called it. But it was quite nice to see him back. And then we see Coulson as well. Again, someone we've not seen for ages. We got to see Coulson, dead Coulson. And then we see again more of Thor being an idiot, being like saying I need sustenance and all that sort of stuff. And he seems to treat Jane and Selvig and Darcy as like second class to him. They're like more, even though he is mortal now, even though he's people now, he treats them as like the beneath him, which is very similar, as I said, to how Loki treats or sees humans in Avengers. He sees them as lower than him. And to be fair, Thor seems to, I mean, Thor's not tried to kill anybody, but he does seem to be of the same opinion. So I don't see why it's such a stretch that, Loki's seen as the big bad because of it. I'm being a proper Loki sympathizer here, aren't I? Trying to make him out to be.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, now that I've sat and watched it again and focused on Loki, I kind of see it more.
You do, don't you? I mean, in the next bit, we go back to Asgard and we see Loki and the Warriors 3 and Volstagg, whatever they're called, and Sif. And Loki then admits that he went and told Heim. He says the guard, because nobody really calls him Heimdall apart from Thor. He says he went and told the guard after they got past him to go and alert Odin. So basically, so that they'd all get rescued from Jotunheim. But they all seem really arsey with him about that, because that's got Thor into trouble. And it's like, well, even Volstagg at one point says, well, he did save our lives. And it's like, he did. If he hadn't gone and told Odin, then because Thor was being a bit of a prick, then you'd all be dead now. So why are we all being arsey with him? And then when Sif asks him to go and try and convince Odin to let Thor come back, Loki quite rightly is like, well, I don't, probably because he doesn't want to go and argue with Odin, but also he's saying like he's arrogant, he's reckless, and if he comes back and becomes king, he's just going to take us to war with Jotunheim. So it's probably a good thing that he's been banished, because he was basically going to ruin everything. But they all seem arsey with him about it. Like Sif's like, oh, he's always been jealous of Thor and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I'm not surprised this guy is starting to turn into a bit of a baddie, because everyone's horrible to him. I know all anybody cares about is Thor, even though Thor at this stage has done nothing remotely good. It's all been trying to go to war with people and trying to show how powerful he is and all that sort of stuff. And Loki's the only one who seems human in all of this. Everyone else seems very superior, and he's the only one who seems to be like, have a conscience and thinking, well, we can't go and do X, Y, Z and get everybody killed and go to war. So it's not really a surprise that he acts like that. But I think at that stage as well, that's when they start suspecting that he's the one who let the Frost Giants into the treasure room, isn't it? Don't they? to ruin the coronation. And then that's when we go to the treasure room and we see Loki holding that casket, and that's when we see him go full blue Frost Giant for the last time ever in the MCU. Massive plot point, never revisited ever. And then that's when he finds out that he was stolen as a kid as a baby by Odin. Did you buy his story as to why he stole him? About wanting to unite the two peoples?
What?
When he says, "Why did you take me? Tell me, I must have had a purpose. Why did you take me from Laufey?" Because he was Laufey's son, wasn't he, Loki? He says, "I did it because you were at first he says, "I did it because you were a helpless baby and you would have died." And then he's like, no, bollocks. You must have had a better reason to steal me. And then he goes, "Oh well, I'd hoped that when you grew up, we could unite our two peoples, and Jotunheim and Asgard could live in peace." And then Loki quite rightly says, "Well, if that was the case, why have you never told me? Why have I had to find this out myself?" And I didn't buy it. I get the impression I saw it as he's robbed him because he's thought, "I'm having it. I'm getting one over on you, Laufey. I'm going to rob your kid and have him as my kid." And he's just purely used Loki as not a weapon, but as a tool, as a prize. Like he said, he's like, "I'm just one of your relics that you keep locked away." But do you think that's right, or do you think Odin really did want to unite the kingdoms, or do you think he's just a bit of a prick?
For
want of a better word. But he was, because we find out that he was, don't we? In Thor Ragnarok, we find out that he was used to go and lay waste to like loads of different civilizations and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, he has a quite rightly, Loki has a bit of a meltdown and not a tantrum, but he's just found out that he's not who he thinks he is, and he's a Frost Giant instead of Asgardian. And then does Odin have a heart attack? Did you think he had and passed out? Or he goes into the Odin sleep? They said.
Yeah,
coma.
I don't know what that.
What?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is. I've not googled it. It wasn't in any of my biology textbooks when I was in kid.
Can he have a heart attack? Is that a thing?
Has he got a heart? Does Odin have a heart? Don't know. What are they just made of, like pure like light? I don't know. What are they made of? Just like pure energy? You don't know. No idea. But he has it. We're gonna say it's a heart attack. We're gonna say he has a heart attack if he's got one. Maybe he's got like two. He has a heart attack. And then we go back to the town, and I just keep literally. I've got written all the way through this. Thor's still being a tit. Thor being a tit. Thor being a tit. Because that's all he's doing. He's just being it again. He's in the diner, isn't he? He starts he throws his glass and says, "Oh, that was delicious," another, and all that sort of stuff. And then that's when he hears about Mjolnir, and he figures out that Mjolnir is on Earth, and he goes looking for that. And that's where I wrote, we were 45 minutes in, and up until this point he's got no redeeming personality traits whatsoever. And
no.
Loki is completely alright in my opinion. He probably shouldn't have tried to ruin his brother's coronation by letting some Frost Giants sneak in. But he knew full well.
His
but he knew full well that they'd get stopped by the Destroyer just by letting a couple earn. So I don't think at any point he's more frustrated. But I'd say at this stage that Loki's probably a more humane character so far than Thor is. We know it's not going to go that way because of the film, but he's a better people. He's a better people up until this stage. So we see. So Thor goes off to try and find Mjolnir. Coulson rolls up and takes all Jane and Selvig's gear, and then we go back to Asgard, and Loki's now taken the throne. But again, I wrote down he's still not really done anything that bad at this stage. He's taken the throne because he is now he's the rightful heir to the throne. He didn't banish Thor,
and it's kind of opportunist as well.
But is it opportunist? Is it opportunist? He would, at the end of the day, right? He would be the rightful heir to the throne.
But he's also kind of been the cause of the chain of events that have led to it. So
yeah, but not intentionally. I don't think. I would argue. I don't think he didn't intend, in my opinion, to get Thor banished from Asgard. And I don't think he intended to give his dad a heart attack or put him in the coma or anything like that. I think he's just found himself in that position.
Yeah.
I don't think he intended to do any of it. And then when the three come up to him and say, you need to bring Thor back, he says, well, I can't, because my first command can't be to undo the last king's last command. But also, because of what Thor did, we're now on the brink of a war with Jotunheim, and I'm trying to establish peace with Jotunheim. Do you get what I mean? So he's not, and whether that's right or not, it sounds like at this point he's trying to mop up the mess that Thor's made, and he's taken over all this while these three, as far as they're concerned, they're coming to dob him in and grass him up and tell Odin that he caused the hassle all that went on at the coronation. He's just not treated very well. I feel really sorry for Larry. I feel really sorry for him. He's just not sorry for him, but you know what I mean. He's still at this point in my mind good. Bit of a pain in the arse, like, but good. And then that's when we start. After that, that's when I think Thor starts to. We go back to Earth and he starts to get redeemed, should we say? So he starts like bonding with Jane, not anything else at this point, and tells her everything. Tells her that he'll tell her everything if she helps him get Mjolnir back. And then again, we there's a lot of jumping about, but we go back to Loki, and he's at Odin's bedside, and he seems at that point very concerned at the fact that his dad's, well, he's not his dad obviously, but Odin is he going to wake up? He doesn't seem like he's sitting there thinking, are you going to hurry up and die? He seems genuinely concerned. And then his mum, Frigga, says that Odin has always got a plan, and there's a method to everything he does. And I think that's when he starts to realise, even though Thor's been banished, he knows that Odin's banished him with the intention that Thor will learn the error of his ways and come back. So he's being given like this, even though he's completely cocked up. Loki's here trying to run Asgard, trying to fix the problems that Thor's caused. Thor's going to learn his lesson and come back, and then take over being king again. And I'm not surprised that he feels upset and annoyed, really.
Yeah.
And then we get, which I think is probably one of the better scenes in the film, Thor breaking into the Shield compound to try and, I was going to say to steal Mjolnir back, but trying to steal Mjolnir back, because it doesn't go to plan, does it?
No.
But in this scene, so we see Agent Sitwell for the first time, I think, who obviously ends up being a Hydra agent, and I completely forgot it's the first time we meet Hawkeye. Completely forgot that was coming. Did you remember it was coming, or were you as surprised as me when Hawkeye popped up on screen?
Do you know what? I thought it was Avengers that we first saw him because of the
mind control.
Yeah.
But he's in this. He doesn't really do much. He doesn't get referred to as Hawkeye, obviously, because he doesn't really get. Does he get referred to as Hawkeye in Avengers? Don't know if he does he? Did they call him Hawkeye in Avengers?
I think so.
Not sure. We'll find out next week. We'll find out next week when we watch it. I'm not sure he does, but he doesn't. He's just Barton in this, and I think unless you really know what your comic stuff, which I don't think many people did at this stage.
Could you imagine though in Avengers if it's like Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, and Clint?
No, but I don't think he gets called. I don't think he gets referred to as Hawkeye. I just don't think. I think he gets called Clint all the way through. Well, what's her face? Natasha doesn't get called Black Widow. I'm pretty sure Natasha doesn't get called Black Widow. Maybe she does at the very start, actually. When she's interrogating that dude, we're skipping ahead to next week's episode here. When she's interrogating that guy at the start, or he thinks he's winning, but she's really interrogating him, I think he calls her the Black Widow. Anyway, Hawkeye's in this. Shock horror. And he picks up the bow and arrow, which is a clear giveaway that it's Hawkeye. Thor can't lift it. Mjolnir, and gives up because at this point he's not worthy yet. And then we see Loki come to see Thor, and this is kind of when he starts. It's not that bad, but he starts going down the bad route because he tells him Odin's dead. He says his mum has completely banned him from ever coming back, and there's a truce with Jotunheim been agreed, but it's on the basis that Thor never comes back, and Thor seems to accept it and realise he's done what's wrong, and I think this is the turning point in the film now.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very quick turn. Do you get what I mean? It's a quick turn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's built up for Loki, but he's gone from being maybe to a degree an opportunist, like you said, to now being maybe a little bit of a villain. But then at the same time, Thor's gone from being a complete idiot to now being quite reasonable and humble. But again, I just thought it was a bit of a quick turn for it. And then Loki tries to lift Mjolnir, and obviously he can't. But it does make me wonder maybe if he tried to lift it. I
thought you said lick then and not lift.
Lift. No, that's Odin. Odin wanted to lick Mjolnir. It was Odin whispering to it, I'm gonna miss you, Mjolnir, and licking it when he was about to throw it in the Bifrost. No, he tries to lift Mjolnir, and he can't. But Selvig not breaks him out, but he gets him out. He calls him Donald Blake, which is Thor's name in the comics. He used to be able to transform from a guy called Donald Blake into Thor. And then we go back to Loki on Jotunheim, and he's making a deal with Laufey. So he basically says, if you kill Odin, I'll give you back this casket, which is what they've been after because it makes them more powerful, I assume. And he admits at that point that he was the one who let them in on the coronation, but he literally just did it for fun, which again confirmed that he wasn't trying to get Thor banished or anything like that. And then we get more bonding from Jane and Thor, and again he explains to her all about like how the 9 realms work and how magic is just science that they don't understand yet. And then we go back to the Warriors. I keep calling them Warriors 3. I hate calling them it. It seems really stupid. Calling them the Warriors 3. Those 3 dudes and Sif. The 3 dudes and Sif basically decide that they need to go and get Thor themselves. But again, it's all really the whole scene. It's like Fandral's like, oh, our dearest friend Thor and all that sort of stuff, and it's really like extravagant might not be the word, and Volstag's sitting there with like a whole plate of chicken drumsticks, eating them all like super fast, like really like a cartoon. And it was just the tone of the film was all over the place, particularly on Asgard.
Do you know what that made me think of a little bit? That scene, what? Asterix and Obelix.
Yeah.
Because it got a bit silly.
He looks ridiculous, doesn't he, though, Volstagg? It's like he's got like it looks like his face is full of makeup for a start, but also like the whole get up, it just looks ridiculous. Considering he's supposed to be like this big, burly warrior who's like hard as nails, he just doesn't come across that way at all. So we go back. We then see more of Thor being like really humble. He's like making everybody breakfast. Loki sends the destroyer to kill Thor. Basically he says, look, go to Earth, destroy everything, to basically kill Thor. And I know we'd said he had like a little bit of a turn in the last bit, but I even wrote down here where did that come from, because he's gone from being a bit of an opportunist to now wanting to kill his brother. I don't get how he got to that point.
So to me, and I don't think they showed it enough, but I do think that what it was. So when he sat on that throne, there's a little bit of facial expression. So when, not like a shock, but a smugness, when those 3 who in previous scenes were basically telling him to stand back while the big guns take care of things, weakling. And now they're having to kneel to him. I think it was the power behind him getting the throne, and I think that's what turned him at this point, and now he's gone. If Thor comes back, I'm screwed and I lose this, and look at what is starting to change already. This is everything that I've ever wanted. I just wanted to be seen, whereas I wasn't before, and if I lose this throne again, I'm going to go back to being second best all over again.
Okay.
So for me, it was basically that power going to his head straight away. However, I don't think they played on it well enough for it to be kind of clear.
But I don't think they needed to, because when they did this film, because we're viewing this from Loki, and I think if you were just watching this, even now, if you watched it and you just watched it as a Thor movie, we never thought
about it until we've sat here watching it, thinking about Loki himself.
Exactly. It's just when you really look into it, it's just too quick a turn from me. He's gone from being, to be fair, agreed with most of what he did right up until the previous scene. And I thought, oh, that's a bit shit telling Thor that, because he is being that's the first time I've really seen him as an opportunist, because he's thought, well, I can just tell Thor he can't come back, and I can now be king, and I'm all right here. And that's the first time I've seen him as an opportunist, but purely as being an opportunist. He's now turned into a complete murderer and is prepared to have his brother killed. And it just again, it was just too big a turn. And we kind of, there's bits later on where we kind of go back and then forward again with it. So it's going on the three dudes, because I'm not calling the Warriors three. The three dudes and Sif show up on Earth, and they tell Thor that Odin's not dead. Loki freezes Heimdall because he knows he doesn't want him to stop him, basically, and get out of his way. I think he sacks him's not the word, like, but he says, like, you're not working for me anymore, and Heimdall tries to attack him. And then the Destroyer arrives on Earth, and the Warriors 3, I've written it down, so I'm going to say it. The Warriors 3 and Sif fight it, but can't beat it at all. And then that's when Thor sacrifices himself, which is clearly when Thor now becomes worthy, because he's now completely...
Can we also address that this is the only time that the hammer makes a noise as it comes to him?
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, what sort of noise? Go and do the noise.
Well, so every time you hear the hammer come to Thor, you hear that
it's just air
as it approach, like, literally comes to his hand.
Yeah.
Right. In this one, you hear the, and then it's like a.
Is it like a
there's
rocket?
just like it's like a rumbling the whole time that it's flying, and that's never happened before.
Well, it had happened before, because it was the first time, but it never happened since. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's not. No, it's they've probably looked at it and thought that was a bit
shit.
A bit.
Well,
shit,
no, it wasn't. I don't think it was. But I don't think it was right.
No. Because why would it make a noise while it flies? Because it's not.
Yeah.
It's not got like a rocket on it or anything like that. It's just.
No.
It's just the hammer.
Now the first bang, I thought maybe that was it coming out of the.
Breaking the sound barrier.
No. Actually breaking through the pod thing that they had over it.
Oh, yeah.
But then I thought, from that far away, it wouldn't have been heard.
No, it wouldn't.
So, but I don't know. I just thought it was very odd. But it doesn't happen again every time the hammer comes. It's just the noise of it hitting things on its way, or just that woo. Yeah. As it kind of gets close.
The what? The
woo.
Just the woo as it comes. That's it now. Every time in any of these reviews now, he gets the hammer. We're gonna do the woo like that. So
I should put it over Steve picking it up.
Woo. So anyway, he sacrifices himself. Loki gets the Destroyer to kill him again. Don't quite understand why he's got that dark that quick. And then when he like is on the floor, I think it shows the sort of tone that they were going for with the film, which we've already said. He doesn't look like he's about to die. He's got a little scratch on his eye. There's like no blood anywhere else, and he's like talking completely, absolutely fine to Jane. He's doing the usual.
2 big scratches on his chest as well.
I didn't even notice the scratches on his chest. I'd completely zoned out. Sure. We'll leave this bit.
He had 1 scratch on his face.
Did
and
he?
2 across his chest. Yeah.
Okay, so that's how that makes sense. Now that'd probably kill you.
I mean, it still didn't look bad enough for it to be killing him, but no. It was a bit more severe than
it was toned down. It was toned down then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was toned down for the film where they wouldn't.
I don't know whether that was for the certification of it though.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
well, I don't know, because look at Tony at the end of Endgame.
Was it the same certificate? Was it?
Yeah, it's 12A. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, both 12A. Yeah. And then we get a quick flashback to Odin whispering to the hammer, telling him he loves it, and then it comes flying towards him. Loads of noises like that, and then when it lands, and he grabs it, And then this was the worst bit of the film for me. This whole probably 30 seconds now. It's the really cheesy music. His eyes opening when he grabs it when he's lying on the floor. The super cheesy superhero music as it happened, and then it flashing to everybody like looking on like, oh, amazing, Thor's back, and then Natalie Portman. Do you know what?
Oh my God!
But no, she doesn't say it like that. She does the oh my like you just said, and then goes God at the end, and I just thought, what? Every time I watch that, I have to like look away and I cringe because I just think it's such an awful bit of the film. Just think it's bad. Natalie Portman is an Oscar-winning actress. She's a fantastic actress, and that was awful. It just took me out of the film completely. Yeah. And the fact that she was on her side because of the stupid, crazy camera angles that Kenneth Branagh had done as well. And then all of a sudden, he stood there with his stupid cape, with sticky uppy shoulder bits, and it just again looked really. It's just cheesy, wasn't it? When it like pans back from him, like holding the hammer after it's gone woo, when he's grabbed it, I was bordering on laughing because of how cheesy and crap it looked. And then all of a sudden there's a giant twister. That's what I wrote. All of a sudden there's a huge twister. Where the frig does the twister come from?
That's from him spinning his hammer.
Yeah, it doesn't. I rewound this twice. He does not spin his hammer until after the twister's already come. There's randomly just a twister. So we go from daytime in the middle of the desert to nighttime, and there's a twister. So,
in the way that he can create lightning, maybe this was the beginning of it, and this was him creating the storm.
He's not Storm. It was done for dramatic effect.
Right. Listen. When have you ever seen thunder and lightning without a storm?
I've seen loads of thunder and lightning without twisters.
Yeah, without twisters, but not without the storm.
Twister just I know, but I know that I get the storm, but all of a sudden there was just a twister, and he didn't spin his hammer to create the twister. Promise you, he didn't. It just
but how do you know he didn't like accumulate the storm?
Well, he might have accumulated the storm. I can't believe we're arguing about this. He didn't. He might have accumulated the storm, but he did. Why is there all of a sudden there's some huge twister powerful enough to lift the destroyer off the floor? It just didn't make sense. I know you're going to say, "Oh, it was him spinning his hammer," but he didn't spin his hammer. I rewound it and checked. I'm getting really, really nitty gritty with this film now, but it was. Do you know? Is cheap the word? The whole film was a bit cheap looking. And even like little things like this. Do you know what? I know we've not finished the film yet. To me, this, and I know obviously the purpose of the Thor movie was to introduce Thor and Loki, and probably I don't think the purpose of it was to introduce Loki. I think Loki just was a happy accident, to be perfectly honest, that happened from the film, like how big a character he became. The whole purpose of this film was to introduce Thor, and I think that's all the film did. There was no other story to this film whatsoever. It was just a really, really long, cheesy, cheap-looking introduction to Thor that probably could have been done in 15 minutes at the start of Avengers.
Yeah.
Thor loses his hammer. Thor finds his hammer. The end. That was it. That was the whole film, except it took 2 hours. I know there's more to it, so we'll go to more of it. But that it just felt like a non-story, the whole thing, and I said it felt a bit cheap. But anyway, so Loki, after he's killed the destroyer, Loki lets the frost giants into Asgard. Heimdall breaks out of the ice and turns off the Bifrost. Oh yeah, because has Loki at this point turned it all on? No, he hasn't. He turns on the Bifrost to bring Thor back. Heimdall. And then the Frost Giants go in to kill Odin, but Loki stops them and saves Odin. And obviously he's seen as the hero, but he basically says, "I'm the son of Odin. I'm gonna kill." He doesn't say those words, "I'm the son of Odin and gonna kill you," because that'd be really crap writing. Because this film's been perfect writing up till now, but that's not exactly what he says. But I don't get it. The fact that he didn't let them kill Odin and he stopped them killing it and he stopped them doing that made me again question, why was he going to kill Thor? Because he could have quite easily it would have been easier. Obviously, what he wanted to do was he used that to be able to go and to be able to go and destroy Jotunheim, which is obviously what Thor wanted to do at the start, or similar. he could have done that if he'd let them kill Odin. He didn't have to.
Maybe he knew that Thor wouldn't be killed by the Destroyer, but it was his intent that it was there to slow Thor down from getting back to Asgard.
Maybe.
And that's why. And then it meant that there was enough time for him to do the heroic thing so that he is seen as the more rightful heir to the throne. And then that way, by the time Thor comes back, Loki's already been offered the throne, and he gets what he wanted.
But if that's the case, then that makes him even less of a bad guy again.
I know.
Because that'd mean he didn't have any intent to kill anybody apart from Jotunheim, which is full of monsters, who, to be fair, are a massive threat.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think of it that way. I just thought it was... I don't think that's how it was supposed to be, but if that is the case, then yeah, maybe. I like that. It's good.
Thanks.
So, well done, Anthony. Well done. a little bit of a clap. So Loki turns the Bifrost on Jotunheim, tries to destroy it, and then that's when Thor shows up and they have this fight. And as much as I love Tom Hiddleston, and I think Tom Hiddleston's been perfect all the way through this film, I know I'm just picking on the film, but he's been the best part of the film by a mile. Tom Hiddleston. It's all the laughs. Every time he fights, every time he like hits Thor, he goes ha 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 like that. Every time he hits him, he does it. Even to the point where the fake Loki is dangling off the bridge, and Thor goes down to pick him up, and real Loki sneaks up behind him, and the only reason Thor knows he's behind him is because before he hits him, he goes ha 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 like that. And it's like, well, if you didn't do that, he wouldn't have seen you, and you could have just kicked him off the
Maybe
bridge.
he can't contain it because he was the one having the shit kicked out of him by Thor as children the whole time, and now he's just really reveling in the fact that he's kicking 10 kinds of shit out of Thor.
And
instead.
maybe he didn't, and because he doesn't really want to kill Thor, like you've just said, he's just trying to slow him down, but he completely gives himself away. Thor breaks the Rainbow Bridge, as we're calling it now, Rainbow Road. Thor breaks Rainbow Road, and Loki says, "Oh, if you do that, you'll never see her again." And he doesn't see her for a while, does he? And in Avengers, by her I mean Jane. And in Avengers, when Thor goes to Earth, and I know we're skipping ahead, when Thor goes to Earth in Avengers, Loki says something along the lines of, "Father must have summoned a lot of dark magic to get you here." Why don't they fly a spaceship to Asgard in Ragnarok? They fly to Asgard?
Yes.
So why did he have to summon loads of dark magic, and why would he never have seen Jane again? Or is this just a continuity error?
Either a continuity error or maybe
they haven't got any spaceships.
Maybe they hadn't been commissioned yet.
They didn't have any. They've run out of spaceships. But because it is seen in this film as like Asgard, the only way you can get to Asgard and back from Asgard is to travel through like realms and all that sort of stuff. Rainbow Road. The only way is Rainbow Road, and it's broke. So, but it's I don't know. I assume it's a continuity. It's a continuity thing. So anyway, Loki lets himself. They have a fight, don't they? And they both fall off, and Loki lets himself go and drops himself into the black hole. And then that's Loki. He's not dead though, is he? We know he's not dead.
No, he got caught by Thanos with a baseball glove.
He does. He gets caught by Thanos. Thanos catches him. He's like, whoa, got ya. And then we get that's the end of the film. Apart from the post-credit scene, which again I think was a continuity error, because we get Selvig and Nick Fury and Fury shown in the Tesseract. That, you know where he was, that underground bunker, is that not the bunker from Endgame where Tony gets a Tesseract when he meets his dad?
No, I thought it was the one from the beginning of Avengers.
No, I think if you look at it, I think it looked like tell us on Twitter if we're wrong, if you're still listening at this point. But I think it looked like the same. It looked like that little bunker where Tony gets the Tesseract at the end of Endgame and his dad's down there. Whether it is or not, it's not a major point. I thought it looked the same. Anyway, when Selvig's there, we see Loki's reflection in it's like a mirror next or a door or something like that next to him. What was that all about? Is Loki already controlling Selvig?
Yeah.
But he's not, because he doesn't use the Mind Stone on him until the start of Avengers. How is he controlling him? Did you get
magic?
Science.
Science that
just science that you don't understand. See, I think that was another continuity error. I think that was something that they put in there, and then they've gone, no, this is better. Let's just forget that, because that is never addressed. It's never addressed for the rest of the MCU. So the fact that Loki can magically jump into other people's bodies from miles away, and the fact that he's a big blue frost giant, we just never talk about. We just never talk about again. So that's it. That's our recap of Thor from Loki's point of view. To sum it up, I would say Loki's not a bad guy. That's my opinion at the end of that movie. Thor's all right now.
I think
he's a bit of a tit.
I think in this he's shown more of a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
Ooh, like that.
What? Well, Loki, victim of circumstance, aka God of Mischief. I just don't think he was. I don't think he comes across as that bad, and I think it probably lends to the theory, because I think there's theories out there that. Because one of the questions again was like, is it a continuity error? And we're getting into Avengers, but we'll go into it more next week. Why, if the Mind Stone from the start was always supposed to be in that staff that Loki gets, and Thanos needs all of the Infinity Stones obviously to operate the gauntlet, why would he give Loki one of the stones if he knew it was one of them to take away? And people have suggested that he knew it was a stone, and the Mind Stone was controlling Loki. And that's why he went completely psycho crazy and was trying to kill everybody, because he was being controlled by the Mind Stone. But you know what? Having now watched this and seeing how he goes from victim of circumstance, like you've just said, to wanting to destroy the Earth and completely mentally crazy, then back to not that bad in Thor: The Dark World, I would probably say that that's possibly along the right route.
Yeah.
What did you think of the film in general, though? Did you think it was a good film?
I loved Thor when it first came out. I thought it was brilliant, and I think now that we're spoiled, we're
so spoiled with the high quality MCU.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. So I don't think it's bad. I think that the bar's just been raised.
I think they could. I think if they changed, if the script had been exactly the same, and even the acting had been pretty much the exact same, and they just changed the tone of the film and the fake looking Asgard and the stupid camera angles, and even the town that they were in was fake. It was a fake town. That obviously it wasn't a real town.
Yeah.
But I think that was glaringly obvious, because it was just like 4 shops in the middle of the desert. Do you know what I mean? Apparently it was an old Western filming town that they basically bought, and it hadn't been used for like 60 years, and they basically did up to make look like a more modern town. But I think it showed, and I think the whole setting and the tone of the film did come across as very fake. And I think if you'd just changed that tone of the film, it would have come across a lot better. Yeah, in my opinion. But yeah, so that was the first one down. We've got the Thor: The Dark World next week, so that's going to be even more fun. Going to be more fun. So theories then. I haven't got any theories at this stage for, obviously no theories for Thor: The Dark World, because I've seen it. Spoilers, it's shit. So that's my theory for Thor: The Dark World. So we've had some theories from listeners for what's going to be coming, or theories and thoughts on what's going to be coming in the Loki series that starts in a couple of weeks. Anthony, do you want to do the first one?
Yeah. So we've got Geeky Nate from Twitter.
Yeah.
With Loki cropping up through time, could Marvel have always planned this, and there are scenes with Hiddleston hiding in them, or will this series only impact stuff going forward, or not at all? Now, we touched on this, didn't we?
Did we?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, because we said, like, what's going to happen in other series or future films? Are we just going to watch something going on and then randomly there's Loki running across the screen in the background?
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we? I like that idea.
But then we just don't see anything again, and it doesn't get explained. But then in an episode of Loki, you see from his point of view what's gone on.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think it's a fantastic idea that they would have done that. I think it's
very difficult to do though.
The big thing, looking now back at this film, thanks Nate anyway. Thanks Nate, by the way.
Thank you, Nate.
In touch. looking at this film and seeing how many times we've just sat there and said they retconned that, they changed that was a continuity error and all that sort of stuff. I don't think Marvel knew this early on how big it was going to be and 100% where the story was going to go. I think they planned ahead to a degree, but I certainly don't think this early in it they knew what they were doing. I think if they were going to have planned that far ahead, it possibly would have been from the Avengers onward, so like from Phase 2. And I think it's not ridiculous to expect that when they were filming Age of Ultron, Kevin Feige didn't already have where we're up to now in the MCU planned out, because I think he probably plans ahead quite a lot now and probably has for a while. But I think, and I'd probably use WandaVision as the example. I mean, we're big fans of the MCU and obviously like all comic book movies, but there's a lot of people out there who are a lot more into it than we are, and who are not in a bad way, but obsessed with this stuff. And I think if Tom Hiddleston was in the background of obsessed in a good way, but I'm not trying to say that it's in a bad way. I mean, if this is what people are into, I think they're fantastic films, and I get it why people love them so much. But if Tom Hiddleston was hiding in the background of a scene, somebody'd have found it by now. I mean, look at how deep people were looking into things in WandaVision. Do you know what I mean? And I know that was more of a mystery TV show, but so as much as I would love it to have been the case, and I think you could make an argument that maybe at least for like the past 5 years they could have started sneaking Hiddleston into things, I think they would have found him by now. And I also think Kevin Feige knows they would have found him by now, and it would have ruined it if it started inserting in it. But I love the idea. I love the idea, and
there's nothing to say that it won't happen going forward.
I was going to say that. I think that could be something that they do going forward. Make it so that literally you could just be watching a film. I don't know. You'll be watching like Captain Marvel 2.
We could watch something, and it could essentially be a teaser trailer for Captain Marvel 2, as he jumps into the middle of an argument between, Captain Marvel and Monica, because we know that something's gone on there.
Yeah, and vice versa though. Like you could be sat watching, I don't know, but think of another film. You could be sat watching Black Panther 2, and literally he just walks across the background or something like that, because he's there and he's been doing all these things, and you could see it in both aspects. You could see a little bit of that in the series, and then you could see a little bit of it again. Yeah, in the future films. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea, and I kind of hope it. I don't think it is right yet, but I hope it is. It does happen going forward, because they could shoot these scenes well in advance, couldn't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Nate. We had another theory and thoughts from We Needed Roads podcast on Twitter. They said that the showrunner, I didn't know this, the showrunner for the Loki series was a writer on Rick and Morty, so they're expecting loads of time travel shenanigans, as they've said, and they also would love to see some Bill and Ted or Back to the Future references in the series. I didn't know that the showrunner was on Rick and Morty. That's brilliant, because I like Rick and Morty.
That is good. Yeah,
and I think we've already referenced Bill and Ted and Back to the Future in Endgame, didn't they? But yeah, the more references we can get, the better. So yeah, thanks for that one. And then have you got one more?
Yeah, so we've got Happy Unicorn on Twitter. Okay. They said that they also expect Back to the Future references. Mobius will tell Loki somewhere at the end of the series, "Your future hasn't been written yet, so make it a good one," which is a line from Doc Brown. Yeah. And the whole of season 2 will be about this and developing Loki's character.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I think if we can get a Doc Brown line in there, that'd be fantastic. Maybe we could get a cameo. Maybe we get a Christopher Lloyd cameo somewhere. Yeah, maybe somewhere in the series, or a Rick and Morty. So, do you know what would be brilliant? Somewhere at some stage, just two people who really look like Rick and Morty, just in the background. Can you imagine? I could see that happening though, just randomly popping up in the background and walking off. But no, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for sending the theories and thoughts in. I think that's pretty much us done, isn't it?
Yeah, that is.
That is us done. So, quick wrap up then. So, if you want to get in touch with more, theories, thoughts, Obviously, as I said, we're going to do Avengers next week, and we're going to do Thor: The Dark World. I'm dreading doing Thor: The Dark World, and two in one, and one of them's Thor: The Dark World, and it's the second one as well. It's going to be horrible. If you've got any thoughts on those films, I've got thoughts on Thor: The Dark World, or any other theories for the Loki series going forward, then get in touch. You can get in touch on the website, thatsuperherothing.com. You can go to the Contact Us page. All our social media links are on there. There's also a link where you can leave us a voice message on the Anchor website, and we'll include you in the podcast. If you want to get in touch on Twitter, we are at Superhero Thing, and on Facebook you can just search for us, That Superhero Thing, on there. Alternatively, if you want to just get in touch via email, it's info@thatsuperherothing.com. As we said, if you do enjoy the show and you are enjoying it, leave us a review. It'd mean the world to us and helps us out massively getting discovered. And a reminder, I've already done it, next week that we're continuing the takeover. We're gonna stick with the Friday releases for now as well. We'll probably go back to Sunday after the Loki Takeover finishes, but I suppose it depends how well received the Friday releases are. Would you say, Anthony? Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes, eh?
But
yeah, that's it from me. So thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.